It's time now for our focus report. On Sunday, voters in Andalusia in southern Spain head to the polls for the region's local elections. The vote is the first big test in a key election year in Spain, especially for the new anti-austerity party Podemos that must prove that it can translate popularity on the streets into hard votes. Marie Bolinches, Marion Touboul and Sarah Morris report on the unusual campaign of Teresa Rodriguez, the leading Podemos candidate in Andalusia.
Malaga, just a few days ahead of the first major test at the ballot box for Podemos. Pablo Iglesias, the leader of the new party, has come to Andalusia to support the candidate.
When people rise up to defend what is theirs, change becomes possible. And that change begins in Andalusia.
In barely a few weeks, Teresa Rodriguez has become the head of the list of the third main political force in the region, largely due to her anti-austerity message.
Our campaign is based on what matters most. We're the party that wants to turn Andalusia into a region where people no longer emigrate, a region with food, a job and a roof for everyone.
Podemos is making fast headway in Andalusia, which has the highest unemployment rate in Spain at 34%, rising to 62% for young people.
Their analysis of the situation is good. My friends and I are unemployed even though we're highly qualified, so there's no point staying here.
Teresa Rodriguez, a 34-year-old teacher, is, like many in her party, totally opposed to traditional politics. Elected to the European Parliament in May, she's made herself well known by posting videos on her party's social networks. Political analysis from her small kitchen in Cádiz.
In less than a year, we've been able to create a network of more than 1,500 assemblies across Spain, of people who meet up every week to define the party's direction. In less than a month, we've managed to organise the campaign in Andalusia and to create a programme.
Podemos has financed its Express campaign through an appeal to its supporters.
Loans range from 100 to 10,000 euros.
Is it possible for people to pay as a group, for example, for 5 people to pay 20 euros each?
Of course, people can take out loans by themselves or as part of a group.
Podemos has promised to repay these loans from supporters after the elections as soon as it starts to receive the public funds awarded to political parties.
Normally, parties are financed by the large banks. We didn't want to owe anything to the banks. We want to make policies for citizens, for the people who are most in need.
Podemos' methods overturn Andalusia's traditional power game. For the first time since Spain's return to democracy, the dominance of the socialists is threatened.
I'm going to vote for you, but afterwards, are you going to end up doing anything? Where is Podemos on this ballot paper anyway?
Out on the campaign trail, Beatriz Robinho finds it hard to convince voters because of a number of allegations against socialist members.
You need to fight against corruption. Corruption needs to vanish. If it doesn't, there are a lot of voters who are going to look for other options. You know that.
The socialists have always been close to the people. Perhaps we've forgotten that in recent times. And Podemos have come along and started pinching our message and our views, but it hasn't put forward any concrete measures.
The result of the Andalusian elections will be scrutinised very closely throughout Spain. Podemos is aiming high. In May, other regions also go to the ballot box, followed by general elections in November. According to the latest polls, the party could become Spain's leading political party.
Well, to tell us more about this story, I'm joined now by Andrew Dowling, a senior lecturer in Hispanic Studies at Cardiff University. Hello, thank you very much for being with us on France 24. Does Andalusia offer a favourable context for this Podemos litmus test?
It does in one sense, and you know, as your report rightly indicated, you know, Andalusia's got terrible problems of poverty, very high unemployment. In fact, you mentioned that, you know, the statistics of the employment, it's actually the highest in the European Union. So it's like shockingly high levels of employment, very big problems with austerity, also big corruption problems. But the problem Podemos has in Andalusia, it's against a surprisingly socialist party. So in elsewhere in Spain, the Socialist Party tends to be kind of like being eroded. In Andalusia, it's got a long-standing, deep-rooted tradition of the Spanish Socialist Party, which is still pretty likely to come out on top in the elections on Sunday. So partly favourable, but also a much more difficult opponent, perhaps, than in other areas of Spain.
And how successful is Podemos expected to be on Sunday?
Current indications are probably around 19–20%, which will mean they'll come third. The Popular Party is likely to be the party that's going to, fall the most in seats. But what we're really going to see, I think, on Sunday is the emergence of a proper four-party system in Andalusia that will be different from previous ones, which is really two parties kind of battling it out on the left, and which will be the Socialists and Podemos, and two parties kind of battling it out on the right, which is the Spanish Conservatives, the Popular Party, and this new upstart party as well on the right called Ciudadanos, the Citizens Party. So we're going to see a kind of more fragmented four-party political system. Podemos is not going to be all-conquering in Andalusia. I think that's the one thing we're not going to see on Sunday.
But might it perhaps influence a shift in other party platforms then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's clear that Andalusia, again, as your report indicated, is the first big test for all of Spain's big political parties, on Sunday, to give an indication of what's going to happen in the next wave. And there's going to be a lot of important decisions to happen after the elections on Sunday, which will have important implications in Spain for the rest of the year. Basically, no party's going to win an overall majority. So what kind of alliances are going to emerge? The Socialist Party is likely to be the victim, not have an overall majority. Who are they going to be able to do a deal with? And will Podemos do a deal with them or not? Will Podemos stand back and allow the old traditional political forces in Spain to kind of like continue to sort out political arrangements, allowing them to be the champions of criticism, the champions of austerity? So lots of parties are saying they're not going to go into alliances with other parties. It's a very fluid situation, but it's also a big test and a symbolic test for developments in Spain for the rest of the year.
And can you tell us a bit more about what's happening within the Socialist Party that means it might lose voters to Podemos? Yeah, well, actually, if you want, the paradox about Andalusia is that the Spanish Socialist Party in Andalusia is much stronger in Andalusia than it is in the rest of Spain. We need to remember that Andalusia is Spain's biggest region in terms of population, and within the structure of Spain's Socialist Party as a whole on a national Spanish level, the Andalusian region is the biggest contributor of votes and support. So it's essential what happens to Spanish socialism, which is why they brought the elections forward, to try to halt any potential advance of Podemos. So a relatively strong showing for the Spanish socialists will give them great encouragement that they're not going to go the way of what happened to the traditional Greek Socialist Party, the PASOK in Greece, which has basically disappeared from the map and has been completely replaced by Syriza. That was the fear in Spain. I think it's pretty clear, and Sunday will confirm this, that the Spanish Socialist Party is not going to disappear. It's going to be weakened, but it's going to continue to be part of the political landscape of Spain for a very long time. And briefly, if you will, is it fair to compare Podemos and Syriza?
Yeah, to some extent they share certain parallels, but I think the biggest difference really is that Greece is not Spain, Spain is not Greece. So the crisis in Greece is much greater, much more profound than it's been in Spain. Now, Spain's got enormous economic problems, and it has got great political problems, but Spain hasn't got the same kind of like oversight, if you want, from the European Union. It's maintained its own relative autonomy from Brussels. So the system in Spain, if you want, the political system in Spain has got a bit more flexibility. There isn't the same depth of crisis. So Syriza is able to be all-conquering in Greece because of the very special circumstances in Greece. And Podemos is limited. It can advance to a certain extent. I think we're probably entering an almost peak Podemos moment where they're going to enter and perhaps become the biggest political party, but they will not have the strength to become the dominant political force in Spain, because the two traditional forces in Spain, the Conservatives of the PP and the Socialists, are going to stay in the game. So that's where Spain is quite different from Greece, which in Greece they're pretty much swept the board and swept away the old traditional force of the left.
Andrew Dowling, thank you very much for having talked to us on France 24. Thank you.